This lecture is called A Brief Intro to the Command Line. Yeah, you heard that right. There comes a time in every web developer's life where you have to learn at least the basics of the command line. I know that many people are afraid of the command line for some reason. And I was afraid myself some years ago, I admit that. But now I love the command line and really can't live without it. And so can't any serious web developer. It's just part of the job. Now in our case, in this project, that is because we now want to install and compile SASS locally. And we're going to do all of that in the command line. And so you need to know at least the basics, like moving around in the file system, creating files and folders, copying files, and stuff like that. And believe me, it's really easy, and at some point it even becomes fun because you're going to look like a real pro. So that's really cool. Now, if you already know this stuff, so if you're already familiar with using the command line, then please feel free to move on to the next lecture, as you're probably not going to learn anything new here. But for the rest of us, let's now jump into a command line. So if you're on a Mac, you can just open up the app called Terminal, and then you're there. Maybe it looks different to you, maybe it's white or something, but it's essentially the same. So let's now increase this a little bit so that you can actually see what I'm doing here. Alright, so this is how it works on a Mac. Now if you're watching this video on Windows, which is probably most of the people watching this course, then you can just right-click on the Start button and from there select the command prompt. So on Windows it's called command prompt. And actually some of the commands are different and some are the same. And each time they are different on Windows, then of course I'm going to tell you, okay? So keep paying attention to that. Now the fundamental aspect of the command line is that you're always in a folder. And we use commands to move inside the folder structure, to create files, to move files, to create folders and all that stuff. So right now I'm here in the home folder. And if I want to see the content of that folder, I simply type ls and then hit return. Now on Windows this is different. On Windows, it's dir, which stands for directory, okay? So on Windows, don't type ls, type dir. So these are the files or the folders that are in my home folder. So applications, documents, library, music, desktop, downloads, movies, and pictures. For you, it's probably going to look different. That's because each system is different. Now, if I wanted to move inside of one of these folders, then I type cd, which stands for change directory, and then the name of the folder. So I write desktop. If I want to move to the desktop. And so now you can see that here it actually says desktop. And so now we're in a different folder. Now I can do ls again to see what's in that folder. And on Windows, don't forget it's dir. And so what I have in here is the nators folder. So if we take a look at the desktop, that's true. So in here is the nators folder, right? Now if I want to go back to where I was, I simply type cd ... And that moves me up in the folder structure. And so I'm back to the home folder, which on a Mac is called this weird symbol here. So if I type ls now, I'm back to what I had before up here, right? Okay, now let's suppose I want to move back to the desktop. I write cd, and I start writing d and de, and so now I can hit tab, and it will auto-complete the name. And that's because there's no other folder or file in here which starts with de. And so it knows that this is the only folder that I can go to, and so it auto-completes this for me. And so I'm back at the desktop, and now I can go to the folder that I know is there, which is called 1 nators. So I write cd 1, hit tab, and it's already there. So, and now I'm in the project folder, which we have been working in. So ls, just to see what's in there, and we have the CSS folder, the img folder, and the index.html. So this terminal window is already getting really crowded with text, so I can just write clear and return, and it clears up my window. Okay, so this is just for aesthetical reasons. And actually this autocomplete function also works on command. So if I start writing cl, e, and then it already knows that I want to write clear. So that's it. Now imagine that in here, in my project folder, I want to create a new folder for JavaScript. So I can use the command mkdir, which stands for make directory. And then just the name JS. And with that, we created a new directory. But note that we're still in the nators directory, right? So let's see. But actually it is there, right? So we successfully created the directory. So let's now move into it actually. So cd js and we're there. So now we're in the JavaScript folder. Alright, and now in here, let's suppose we want to create a bunch of files. We could of course go to our text editor and then create each of these files one by one. But we can also use the terminal, which I think is a lot easier. You just write the command touch, and on Windows it's called edit, I believe. And so then you can write the names of the files that you want. So let's say script.js, and you can put multiple here. So index.js and test.js. Hit return and that's it. So let's now check it out. And in fact, they're all there. And we can of course confirm this in the file system here. So of course the JavaScript folder is here and the 3 files are there as well. Now another thing that we can do is to copy or to move files, of course. So let's say that we actually want the index.js file not in here but in the project folder, so in the main project folder. So what we can do is to say cp, and on Windows it's called copy, then just the name of the file, index, and see how I did the tab, so the autocomplete, it automatically completed the file name for me. So copy index.js, which is the name of the file, and then the directory where we want it to copy. And if we want the project folder, which is one level above, we simply type ... And ... always means the folder that is above. Remember how we wanted to move up in the file system? We used cd ... and so that's the same. So ... always means the folder which is above in the file system. So what this is going to do is to copy the file into the folder above. Alright, so let's check it out. So index.js, it's still here. And if we're now going up and check what's in there, then here, the index.js file is also in there. So great. Now suppose we want to move one of the files that is in the JS folder. So let's go there. Let's take a look. Okay. So now we want to move the scripts.js file also into the project folder. So we simply type mv, or on Windows, move. And now it's the same thing. So let's just say script and then ... Now the difference is that the file should be gone from this folder. So ls, and yeah, it's actually no longer there. And if we now check in the project folder, so one level above, and check it out, ls, then it's indeed there. So that's the one that we've just moved here, right? Let's clear this up. And so I actually already showed you a lot of stuff. Let's just now remove a file, okay? So I'm again going to move into the JS folder, so cd.js. And so since I already copied the index.js file to the project folder, so the folder above, let's just delete it. And nothing is simpler than that, because we simply have to write rm and then index.js. And that's it. And sorry, I just forgot to say that in Windows it's called del, so del for delete. So it's not rm. Rm is just on a Mac or on Linux because it's also running Unix. Now, please be careful with this rm, with this removing, because this doesn't go to the trash bin. No, it's really deleted from your computer. You cannot get it back. So always use this with great care, okay? So let's now look if this actually worked. And yeah, so all that's left here is the test.js. Now maybe we also don't need this file anymore, so let's just delete it as well. Or actually, even better, we could try to delete this entire folder. So let's try that, okay? So let's go back to the folder and then rm and then the JS folder. Now this didn't work because JS is not a folder, and so we have to do it in a different way. So how does it work? At least on a Mac. On Windows, I'm actually not pretty sure how it's going to work, but don't worry because it's also not really important. So to remove a directory, so a folder, it's actually pretty much the same. All you have to do is rm, and then you basically pass it an option like this, so dash and then r, which stands for recursive, which simply means that it's going to delete all the files and then also the folder, okay? And now, like this, it's going to work. So the JS folder is now gone, and let's actually confirm it. And yeah, so we're back to the index.html and the img folder. And just to clear up all the work that we did, let's also delete these 2 files here, so that we're back to the initial situation that we started with. So rm, index.js, and then script.js. And so then again, please be careful before hitting return on this one, because these files, they are gone forever. So if you accidentally typed index.html, that index.html file will be gone forever. You cannot get it back. So please be careful that the file names you wrote here are absolutely correct. So just the files that we created and that are empty here, okay? So in my case, everything is correct, so I will hit return, and now the files are gone. Now one last thing I want to show you, this one I'm also not sure if it works on Windows, is just let's go into the img folder, and now let's simply open one of these images. Because here on the Mac, at least in Unix, you can simply write open and then, for example, the hero.jpg, and it's then going to open the program in which we usually watch the images. Okay, and that's actually it. I think this is enough to actually show you how the command line works. Now what I want you to do to practice this is to just create a new folder called command line on your desktop, then in there create a couple of folders, and then create a couple of files in there. Maybe you can also copy them around or move them around and do all the kind of stuff that we did here in this video, so that you get some practice and don't forget immediately what we just did here, okay? So this is enough for this video. This should give you a good enough grasp of the command line, and so now we're good to go and install SASS in the next lecture.